Most people preparing for an MBA in Germany are not underprepared. They are just preparing in the wrong order. They start with GMAT or consultants or shortlisting colleges randomly. And then 6 months later, they are overwhelmed, they are confused, and they are doubting everything. So, the truth is that an MBA in Germany does not reward panic preparation. It rewards phase by phase preparation. And if you get the sequence wrong, then the entire process feels chaotic. So today I'll give you the exact 5 phase roadmap that I followed, the mistakes that I made, the things that I underestimated, so that it becomes easier for you. Before we go step by step, I started preparing almost 1.5 years before my MBA in Germany, and my goals did evolve during that time. I changed how I positioned myself. I made mistakes and I learned what actually matters in this system. So, this is not theory, it's my personal experience in hindsight. So, let's structure this properly. Just a quick heads up, think of this preparation as layers and not just tasks. Phase 1 is clarity. Before GMAT, before shortlisting, before essays, you need directional clarity. Ask yourself, why MBA and not MIM or MS? Why Germany specifically? Why now? And most importantly, what roles are you realistically targeting post MBA? And I know that this phase is uncomfortable because your answers won't be perfect. Mine were not as well. But without clarity, everything later becomes random. And please keep in mind that Germany rewards alignment and not just vague ambition. So even if your direction sharpens later, just start thinking early. Phase 2 is GMAT and positioning. Now, at this point, you start preparing for your GMAT. That's straightforward. But the thing that most people ignore is profile shaping. Most candidates try to polish their CVs 2 months before applying, and honestly, that's too late. So instead, just ask yourself some questions at this point because it's very important. What does your profile signal right now? Does it signal leadership? Does it signal initiative, quant skills, your career focus? And the reason you ask these questions early in your MBA preparation is because if your answers to these questions are no or partially no, then you have time to actually fix your CV or work more on it rather than just faking things in the end. And this is when you take stronger responsibility at work, lead projects, build measurable impact, fix your weak areas, and strengthen your communication skills. So, yes, start preparing for GMAT early because it takes a lot of mental energy, but positioning should also happen in parallel. And trust me, you will thank me later for this point because it really helps going forward. Phase 3 is targeting. This is basically your shortlisting strategy, and this is where your direction becomes decisions. Up until now, things were broad. Now you get specific. Most people make this mistake, they just shortlist randomly based on rankings, based on what others are applying to, and honestly, that's dangerous. Your shortlist should be based on certain factors, and based on these factors, you create a mix of safe schools, competitive schools, and aspirational schools. And just be honest with yourself here because overestimating your profile may lead to rejections and underestimating it may lead to missed opportunities. I have made a detailed video about how I shortlisted MBA colleges. You can find it in the card above, and I'll also provide the link in the description box below. Phase 4 is proof. And this includes your applications, your essays, and your interviews. Now, this is the phase that I underestimated the most because I thought that this is just about writing applications. But it's not. It's basically storytelling under pressure. Yeah, because you're managing essays, CV refinements, preparing for interviews, recommendation letters, deadlines. And let me tell you this, essays are not summaries. Because I made that mistake too of underestimating essay writing. I thought that essay is basically the summary of your profile, but they are not. They are reflections. You're answering why this shift, why this school, why now, why Germany, and most importantly, does your story makes sense? And trust me, that takes time. That takes reflection time, rewriting time, self doubt time. If you rush this phase, it just shows on your essays. And admissions committees are scanning thousands of essays every year. So they can clearly see which essays are written with clarity and which essays are written with confusion or they are rushed. And then comes interviews. This is where everything gets tested. You need to defend your story, you need to explain your decisions, show your maturity and your directions. So, all in all, applications are not just submitted, they are basically presented and defended. And by the way, if you want a deeper breakdown of essays, then I have already made a full video on that. So watch it here. I will also link it in the description box. Then phase 5 and the last phase is execution and transition. Now everything becomes real. Once admits start coming in, this phase begins and you are dealing with final decision, financial planning, education loan, blocked account, visa process, and all the timelines. Just keep in mind that Germany runs on systems. You cannot rush the bureaucracy, you cannot simply skip the steps. So, buffer time here is critical, but this phase is not just paperwork, it's also your transition. You start preparing for housing, health insurance, living independently, and cultural adjustment. And most importantly, language learning. Realistically, it takes about 6 months to reach A2 level and about 9 to 12 months till you reach B1 level. So start planning accordingly because learning the language in Germany is not optional. It's actually a leverage for internships, for daily life, for networking, and your future job. And if you've already watched my video on expectations versus reality of studying in Germany, then you know that adjustment is real. So don't just prepare academically, start preparing mentally. I started early and that gave me space, but what I underestimated was the depth of reflection that was needed for applications. So, if I could redo it, I would definitely give myself more thinking time and not just writing time. Also, I would consciously prepare myself more for the emotional transition. So, if you're preparing right now, then screenshot these 5 phases. Don't rush the sequence, just build it layer by layer. And if you want more such grounded and structured conversations about MBA decisions and life in Germany and Europe, then subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.